I'm Raquel Welch, and you're watching me on Quasar 2 Color TV.
The 675-watt Amana radar range microwave oven has quality features.
From gadgets that seem outdated today to peculiar lifestyle trends that screamed affluent, the 1970s were an era where having the right stuff meant that you made it. But what were these treasures that defined success in the grooviest decade of the 20th century? The color television set. In the 1970s, having color TV wasn't only about entertainment, it was stepping into the future. Black and white TVs were still around, but if you had a color set, you were ahead of the game. It was like having the latest smartphone today. Everyone wanted it, but not everyone could afford it. It brought life to shows like the Brady Bunch and Charlie's Angels, where the outfits and sets practically jumped off the screen. A brand new way to experience your favorite stars and families with one of these TVs, and it became the envy of the neighborhood. It wasn't cheap though. They often cost $400 or more, a huge sum when the average income was $9,000 a year. But it wasn't the price that made them special. A color TV was the centerpiece in every living room, with people gathering around for special events like the Olympics or the latest episode of Star Trek. It turned watching TV into an experience that felt shared, modern, and luxurious.
I bet you want a sun camera for Christmas. Well, ask for it. You won't break anyone. It's only $39.95.
A Polaroid camera. The Polaroid camera was a game changer back then. Regular cameras meant that you had to shoot on a roll of film, drop it off at the lab, and wait days or even weeks to see your pictures. With a Polaroid, you had instant gratification. Take the picture and within moments it would slowly come to life in your hands. It felt like magic for anyone who saw it. Owning a Polaroid wasn't only cool, it showed you were ahead of the curve and could afford the latest and greatest tech. The cameras were perfect for family gatherings. You could capture grandma's laugh or the kid's goofy grin and pass the photo around right then and there. At parties, they became the ultimate icebreaker. Everyone could crowd around, eager to see the image emerge like a tiny masterpiece on a blank canvas. A refrigerator with an ice maker. In the 70s, a refrigerator with an automatic ice maker was kitchen magic. No more fiddling with pesky ice trays, trying not to spill everything as you shuffle them into the freezer. With the press of a button or the pull of a lever, you had perfectly shaped cubes that would tumble out ready to chill your drink. It was the kind of convenience that felt futuristic, almost like something out of the Jetsons. Not everyone had one. The fancy fridges were expensive and far from standard. They were an instant conversation starter, and when guests came over, offering a drink with crystal clear machine-made ice said, "Welcome to my home, where modern technology and style reign supreme." Having a phone in every room. Most homes in the 1970s had only one phone, usually in the kitchen or maybe in the hallway. It was a classic rotary phone with a long and coiled cord that somehow always got tangled, and if someone was using it, everyone just had to wait. But having a phone in every room was a next-level living. It wasn't only about convenience, it showed you had the cash to spare. Imagine lying in bed and casually picking up the phone to chat, or answering a call while soaking in the bathtub. Even bathrooms had phones in the fanciest of homes, which made it feel glamorous. Guests were impressed, others were jealous, and the best part is that you'd never miss an important call. Owning a second car. In the 1970s, families were proud to have a reliable car parked in the driveway, but they weren't cheap, and maintaining them was a big expense. Owning a second car was a game changer and a huge flex. It wasn't about having the extra wheels, it was about showcasing a lifestyle that screamed you had it all. The second car had its own personality, perhaps a sleek and sporty coupe for carefree weekend drives with the windows down, or maybe it was a trusty station wagon for piling the kids and dog and half the neighborhood for a road trip. Some families invested in a rugged pickup truck for hauling gear, showing they could work hard and play harder. 2 cars in the driveway didn't just mean convenience, it was a symbol of freedom. One was used for the daily grind, while the other was adventure and indulgence. It told the world that you weren't just getting by, you were living a little larger than most. And don't forget, neighbors couldn't help but notice shiny wheels parked side by side, declaring your success every time they walked by. A high-end stereo system with large speakers. Music was the heartbeat of the 1970s, whether it be rock legends like Led Zeppelin, the grooves of Donna Summer, or the smooth soul of Marvin Gaye. Everyone had their jam. If you were lucky to own a high-end stereo system with massive floor speakers, that was like having your own concert venue at home. They didn't come cheap, they could easily cost hundreds or even sometimes thousands of dollars, but were worth every penny for the rich and crisp sound they delivered. The bass wasn't only sound, it was an experience. You didn't hear the music, you felt it in your chest. Friends and neighbors couldn't help but take notice when the walls practically vibrated to the beat of Staying Alive. If hosting parties was your thing, everyone wanted an invite just to hear their favorite songs played the way they were meant to be heard, loud, clear, and full of life. They were sleek and shiny and proudly displayed like trophies in your living room. Membership to a country club. Joining a country club in the 1970s was more than just hitting the golf course or playing tennis on a Sunday afternoon. It was like joining an exclusive secret society. These clubs weren't just for anyone. They were for the rich and powerful and those who wanted to show off that they were at the top. The membership fees were expensive, costing as much as a small car, if not more, but it was worth it if you could afford it. Members had access to luxurious amenities that were the ultimate flex, dining menus full of fancy dishes you couldn't get anywhere else, sparkling pools perfect for a relaxing swim or hosting a party, and then of course, high-profile social events like fancy balls, charity galas, and more. It was the place to rub elbows with CEOs, politicians, celebrities, and all kinds of high-status people. A vacation home or cabin. Owning a second home in the 70s was a statement that you had truly made it. Whether it was a cozy cabin in the mountains, a lakeside retreat with a private dock, or a beachfront getaway where you could sip cocktails while watching the sunset, it was all about escaping the grind of everyday life where you found peace, privacy, and exclusivity. Maintaining a second home wasn't cheap. There were property taxes, upkeep, and hiring caretakers, and for the wealthy, it was an investment in lifestyle and status. These homes weren't just for relaxing, they were all about showing off. Weekend trips became opportunities to host a lavish barbecue, take friends out on the lake, or simply allow them to marvel at your good fortune. Imported wine and spirits at home. In the 70s, having imported wine and spirits on display wasn't about enjoying a drink, it was a statement of class and refinement. Hosting a dinner party while casually pouring a deep French red Bordeaux or offering your guests a smooth Scotch whiskey from Scotland, they weren't only beverages, they were conversation starters and proof you had the palate and wallet to appreciate the finer things in life. Imported alcohol was not easy to come by. There were no online stores or specialty shops, and securing a bottle of Italian limoncello or fancy German Riesling often meant connections, effort, and a hefty price. The bottles sat proudly on bar carts and shelves, with elegant labels shouting, "Look how worldly I am." A well-stocked bar hinted that you traveled, appreciated culture, and probably enjoyed reading about fine dining and European trends. A microwave oven. Microwaves were the ultimate kitchen game changer in the 1970s, promising faster cooking, easier meal prep, and a glimpse into a tech-savvy lifestyle. They also came with a hefty price, about $400, which would be over $2,000 today. It meant not everyone could afford it, making it a status symbol for those who could. Families who owned a microwave didn't just cook their food, they showed it off. Dinner parties became opportunities to demonstrate how effortless it was to reheat leftovers and warm up snacks. Want a fresh bag of popcorn? It was done in minutes without the stovetop mess. And let's not forget the science fiction vibes. People were fascinated and nervous about how this magical box heated up food so quickly. Some even joked about radiation and worried that it might take the nutrients out of food. But despite it all, it was irresistible, and the microwave became the star of the modern kitchen. Wall-to-wall carpeting in your home. In the 1970s, wall-to-wall carpeting wasn't just flooring, it was a statement. If you had your house covered in soft plush carpet, you were fancy, and back then it wasn't cheap, so it told people that you had made it. Shag carpeting with its thick and fluffy texture was the ultimate in trendy luxury. Popular colors like burnt orange, avocado, and mustard yellow turned living rooms into cozy retro paradise. It added warmth. During cold winters, it would keep the house snug, and walking barefoot felt like stepping on a cloud. At parties, everyone kicked off their shoes and sat on the floor, admiring bold patterns and deep colors, and kids loved to roll around, and pets enjoyed the extra comfort as well. A home with a swimming pool. If your house had a pool in the 1970s, you weren't only rich, you were living the dream. Pools were a big deal back then, a luxury most families could only fantasize about, and they weren't just for swimming. They were a symbol of success, especially in the well-to-do suburbs. Maintaining a pool would cost a small fortune, and if you had one, people knew you had money to spare. Barbecues and pool parties weren't only social gatherings, they were full-on status statements. Imagine sizzling burgers on the grill while children splashed around and adults lounged with a cocktail. The envy that it sparked. Neighbors without pools couldn't help but peek over the fence, secretly wishing they were invited. And if you had an inflatable lounger or trendy floating pool bar, you were a celebrity on your street. It was all part of that 70s aesthetic, with bright turquoise water surrounded by colorful tile and lush landscaping that turned any backyard into a private oasis. People would throw extravagant pool parties complete with tiki torches, disco music, and strung-up lights. A pool didn't only make summer fun, it made it unforgettable. Attending private schools. Sending your children to private school in the 1970s was the epitome of a status symbol. It told the world you made it and want the best for your kids. But it wasn't cheap. Tuition could rival the cost of a new car, and families who could afford it saw it as a must-have investment. They offered small class sizes, meaning more attention from teachers, which often led to better grades. However, the schools also had elite extracurriculars like fencing, horseback riding, and debate teams, activities that screamed exclusivity. They gave children access to social circles of other wealth and influential families, and the connections often lasted a lifetime, turning into business partnerships or even marriages. For parents, it wasn't only about their child's future, it was about their own reputation. Owning a sailboat or motorboat. Owning a boat in the 70s wasn't just about having fun on the water, it was a stylish way to show off. Whether it be a speedy motorboat perfect for water skiing adventures or graceful sailboats for calm and scenic cruises, owning one said that you'd arrived. They weren't cheap, and buying one would only be the beginning. There was maintenance costs, storage fees, and of course all the extras like life jackets, fishing gear, and nautical decor to make your vessel stand out. But for those who could afford it, it was the ultimate escape. Weekends meant anchoring at a quiet bay, hosting friends for drinks and laughter, or showing off your water skiing skills. It wasn't only a hobby, it was a way to unwind, connect with nature, and allow everyone to know you were living the good life. Traveling internationally for vacations. In the 1970s, international travel was like stepping into a different world. Back then, hopping onto a plane to Europe, to Caribbean, or Japan was not something anyone could just do. Airfare was sky high and discount airlines were not a thing. That meant that crossing the globe in a jet was a clear sign you were living the good life. Traveling abroad was not only about the destination, it was about the story you could bring back. Imagine showing your neighbors photos standing in front of the Eiffel Tower or walking along the Great Wall of China. It was a badge of honor, and you'd return with exotic souvenirs, handcrafted trinkets, and more, and everyone back home would be envious. International travel told the world that you had money, curiosity, and the freedom to see it all. Designer jeans. Jeans were not always the casual go-to they are today. In the 1970s, they transformed basic workwear into high-fashion must-haves, thanks to designer brands like Jordache and Gloria Vanderbilt. They were a statement. With their snug fit and sleek designs, they emphasized style and confidence, but they also came with a steep price tag, meaning only those with extra cash to spare could afford them. If you walked into a room wearing a pair of designer jeans, everyone knew that you were not shopping at the discount store. Made to stand out, they often featured flashy stitching, rhinestones, and logos on the back pockets. Pair them with sky-high platform shoes or a flowy satin top, and you look like a disco star stepping straight off the dance floor. Owning a pair wasn't only about wearing pants, it was owning a slice of 1970s cool. In those days, if your jeans were designer, they announced to the world that you had taste and the money to back it up. A fur coat. In the 1970s, a fur coat wasn't only clothing, it was a declaration that you'd arrived. These luxurious pieces were crafted from mink, fox, sable, and chinchilla and were not cheap by any stretch. A high-quality fur could cost as much as a car, making it a symbol of pure extravagance. Women draped themselves in fur, not trying to stay warm, but trying to command attention. Walking into a party or high-end event in a fur instantly turned heads and sparked whispers of admiration. They were often passed down as family heirlooms and gifted as gestures for milestone celebrations like weddings, anniversaries, and more. And while fur was commonly reserved for gala dinners and winter soirees, women proudly wore theirs while running errands, turning the grocery aisle into a personal runway. Custom-made furniture. Custom furniture in the 70s was a way to show off taste and wealth. Instead of picking something from the department store, families went all out with one-of-a-kind pieces made specifically for their home. Whether it was a wooden dining table with intricate carvings or a couch upholstered in bold, eye-catching patterns, they were statements, and the craftsmanship was top-notch. If someone walked into your home, they'd immediately notice the difference. It wasn't about comfort, it was about showing off your style and taste while making your living room a little less regular and more like an art gallery. If you had custom furniture in the 70s, you practically said, "I've got money and taste."
Kodak videotape. It captures the sights and sounds of every moment.
Owning a VCR. The VCR was a game changer when it hit the scene in the late 70s, but getting your hands on one was not easy. They often cost $1,400, nearly $7,000 in today's money, and if you owned one, you were the coolest person on the block. It showed you had the cash to spend, but also meant you were ahead of the curve when it came to tech. Before then, you had to wait for your favorite show to come on or go to the movie theater to see the latest blockbuster. But now you could record everything and watch at any time, and bring the theater experience to your living room. Movie nights at home became a big deal, and everyone wanted to come over to watch the latest films. It was like owning a miniature Hollywood right in your own home. Subscription to premium magazines. In the 1970s, having a subscription to a magazine like Time or National Geographic wasn't just about reading the latest news or learning about distant lands. It was a quiet flex that showed your wealth and taste for the finer things in life. They were much more than glossy pages. They were symbols of being well-informed, educated, and globally aware. And if you had them neatly stacked on your coffee table or bookshelf, it was a message to others. You were sending the signal that said you were cultured. Guests would often pick one up as they sat down, flipping through the pages and admiring the photography and insightful articles. And for many, it felt like a peek into a world of intellectual sophistication. Which of these items do you think would still impress people today? Be sure to let me know your opinions in the comments down below. Also, subscribe to the channel so that you never miss another great video like this one in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.